I am right now in my 5th year student teaching internship. So I was the class of 2019 and I got the opportunity to postpone, and I am doing the student teaching in the area of Spanish as my major.
I'm a 4th year student at MSU, majoring in mathematics for secondary education.
Academic year 2021 has presented obviously a lot of challenges for everyone. And with like the dual role of being a student and having the responsibility of teaching, it has been really interesting. But I'm sure there's something like Chris can also speak to as well. Like MSU, with all the placement experiences you get in undergrad that are so varied, I think it equips you to be really adaptable. So like obviously this is something unforeseen and difficult in its own respect. And like I don't ever want to downplay that. There's a lot of like trauma and pain and like uncertainty in this time that is special, but we also have learned to be very adaptable and very responsive to like what's needed from us. So I think that like it's definitely helped, but it's been interesting. It's been very character building. I'm learning way more than I expected, and I've gotten the chance to say that like often in teacher preparation, which is cool. And I learning to balance the responsibility of my own classes and being an instructor for young people has been really made me feel mature and confident and challenged in some good ways.
I kind of started like College of Education specific classes right when the pandemic was starting. And so really the big thing that I've noticed is both within like the community and peers, but also within the staff, like everyone's kind of really stepped up to still establish a sense of community among everyone that's graduating, especially when we're doing placements before we go into our student teaching year, because that's kind of been like, okay, how do we do this? And so last semester it was all virtual, and we were able to step into an MSU freshman math class and really apply ourselves to that situation, both as potential or future teachers and kind of interacting with students. And this semester, we actually have an opportunity to attend some of the virtual high school settings that are in the local East Lansing area, which has been really cool to see how experienced teachers have really adapted what they normally might do in a semester to kind of this virtual environment.
The connection to education, like in my personal formation, like I was one of those kids that was like always wanting to play teacher. But from that young age to high school, my perspectives kind of changed in a lot of ways. And I think like the cynicism of the world got to me in some ways. And there were times where I didn't exactly feel supported as a young person, finding myself and trying to like balance the responsibilities of school. And I had some really great teachers that kind of took me from a student that was making some questionable decisions to a student who like kind of had a sense of purpose, like renewed. So I had some really meaningful experiences with educators.
Secondary education, it spans from like 6th grade to 12th grade, and there's so much growing that happens in that stage. And Zach, you kind of touched on this, just you go through a lot when you're in that age group personally. And for me, similar to Zach, just kind of really had some teachers who stepped up and really kind of mentored me along the way, and like were very influential in my life, and giving me characteristics and stuff like that that I carry with myself today. And so to be able to kind of turn that back around and to pour into students from various different backgrounds and very different ethnicities and everything, and just kind of be there for them in a very natural way of, we're just going to do some math. Like, this is super chill, but like along this way, we're going to like really just kind of connect and have that. And so that's something I am really passionate about, of just kind of giving back, especially to students in that age bracket, and just kind of where they're at, because it's not easy being a teenager, and I don't think they get enough credit for all that they go through.
I would say that I feel supported to the extent right now that I think it's really lucky that I've had the chance, like last year and this year, to have like the full school year working with some of the same professors, and where you get that kind of stronger connection, stronger perspective of like what your needs are and like how you can better work together to like achieve what you need to do or you're hoping to do. So that's been really formative. And I think right now, like our professors and like our mentor teachers are talking about the importance of academic grace. So our schools, like our school staff. And I think to some extent, like it's been a shared learning for like our school staff, like K-12, it's been a learning experience for like us in higher education. And as we're like kind of in the middle of those, like everyone's needing academic grace right now, and everyone's needing some more of that like support on like a human level. I've been supported by professors and like accepting the things that we cannot change, but like looking out for each other in a way that's hopefully not unique to this time, but feels really meaningful right now.
My advisor at the College of Education has absolutely gone above and beyond in terms of like staying connected throughout all of this. I've had so many questions of like, okay, what does this mean? You know, is my education going to be delayed? Is this, you know, like just so many things have been just been up in the air, and really having that availability that she's been able to offer to just always be able to, you know, communicate of what's going on. And then my professors as well, kind of like what Zach was mentioning as well, like having these professors that you really get to know, you really get to kind of interact with them, and they kind of help ground you in such a just crazy time. But even beyond that, like my peers and I, we've created group chats and like really been intentional and had to seek opportunities to be social in different ways, because we're not just hanging out after class, you know, in the hallway anymore. You know, I log off and I'm back at home and I'm here. So really just all around, whether it's faculty or advisors or my peers in the College of Education, we've all just kind of stepped up to make this experience, you know, a little less isolating, and a little bit have that camaraderie together.
Something that I right now, as someone in this 5th year, is looking at is all the times where I was feeling a little bit lost or a little uncertain in the first 4 years at MSU, and I should have gone to an advisor and I didn't. I saw my Spanish advisor a lot, but what's unique as education students is we have a lot of support because in secondary ed, right, you have access to all the people in your focus area, but you also have these education specific professionals that are there to give you a lot. And so when I look back, there were a lot of times I should have taken advantage. So if you are in a spot where you know you could get some help from an advisor, give it a shot. Send that email, send that message, look online, see what you can do, because there's a lot of people who've been in your shoes or who can give you something. So I wish I could have changed that, but now I've learned the lesson. Right now I'm working in a great placement where I'm focused in Spanish, like as a second language. And I really enjoy that. And I think something that I've been learning through my other, like my minors, I also studied TESOL and English. And what I think is a really useful way to use those different like interests is for English, just teaching English to speakers of other languages. There are a lot of Spanish speaking young people in our education system that like are not consistently supported or like would deserve some expertise and some care. So that's something I'm interested in getting into after this. And in general, part of why I got into teaching or began to consider it for myself is the fighting the cynicism as you're a young adult. Someone helped me do that. And so like if I can kind of instill a little bit of like, if I can do anything to instill a little bit of hope, even if that's only a couple of people, that feels great. So I only hope that like a student or two that I interact with gets that kind of out of our interaction. But if anything, at least is seen for their strengths and their abilities in a way that not everyone always is seeing.
Studying mathematics, you know, math is not always someone's favorite subject, and there's a lot of, I feel like, stereotypes that go into that, whether they be gender based or racial based. And I guess, you know, in the future I kind of hope to destigmatize those and really make math attainable for everyone regardless of where, you know, what their background is. Because like to me, I mean, math can be broken down into a game, and when you understand the rules of the game, we can play the game. And really kind of like learning and teaching math through relationships rather than like, oh, I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to lecture this. Because I feel like that's a lot of the traditional ways in which, you know, math is taught. But like making it fun and making it enjoyable and like connecting with students and recognizing that, you know, not every student is necessarily going to want to go to college. And so like, you might not like have a desire to go on to calculus, but like, we're going to have fun here while we're in trigonometry, or we're going to have fun while we're in algebra. And, you know, taking each student's worth for exactly who they are and letting that speak for itself and not over exaggerating that to other stereotypes. Zach, I appreciate your perspective. Um, just kind of hearing from, someone who's, farther down the line than I am, I always relish that opportunity to kind of hear. And this is probably going to be an equally as vague question, but like, if you could tell yourself something like, you're me, you're in your last year, you're prepping, for the MTTC, all these other things, you got all this stuff going on, all this chaos of like, wow, I'm actually going to be done. Like, what does that transition look like? I mean, especially from where you're at, and like, what are you looking forward to, going beyond internship year, like into actually teaching that I might not even have a scope of from like my perspective.
So as far as transitioning like from like into the internship year, something I would say is everything that you've experienced, like someone's kind of intentionally designed to be a really good learning experience, but B, like you brought something to that and like you've probably gleaned things that you might not even realize you have. I would advise something specific that I do that's helped, that I started doing, I believe as a senior as well, was I started doing some like educator journaling of my own. It was prompted by a professor, and like I kind of kept doing it after I did not have his class anymore. I kind of just made notes of times where like I had that light bulb go off in my head that wasn't for any specific class or any specific anything, but it was just times that like I as Zach Hill, like I as human being that's going to do this job or like cares about this thing of education, like had a kind of a light bulb moment. And I just keep those notes kind of running. Like I actually have it happens to be an MSU one, this is not planned, but like my MSU little composition notebook, this is like my teacher, like, I don't even know what the word would be, but this is like a lot of my experiences live in here. But I would say that like you've already kind of gone feet first by being in your senior year. There's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of new challenges, a lot of learning things. I would say that the fifth year doesn't feel that much different, but it's very different. But you're going to be so prepared when you get here, and when you're done with it, I already have the sense that I'm going to go in to my first year teaching and pretty soon here, apparently, and feel really ready to do something that I can stand by and feel confident in. And I think first year teachers have a lot up against them. And I think you've made a lot of choices to get yourself to where you're at right now that are going to pay off when we're both in that situation, when we're both first year teachers in this future, like ahead of us. So you're probably doing a lot of things already, but that's like a couple of things that come to my mind.